We've now looked at all of the individual little techniques for factoring different types of polynomials. What we want to do now is put them all together in a general strategy. So what do you do no matter what polynomial you happen to be given? So here's a list of things to do, and I'll try to diagram it as we go. The first step is always take a look at that polynomial, and if it's not in descending order, you want to write it in descending order. Now what I mean by descending order is that your highest degree term should come first, like x squared plus a term with x in it, and then the constant term. Now, if you happen to have two variables, then the square for each variable should be on the outside. So for instance, x squared plus 5xy plus 6y squared. The squares for the variables are on the edges. So descending order, you want to organize your polynomials so that it makes sense with how we've learned to factor them. And we've always done things based on descending order. The next step is always look for a GCF, a greatest common factor. If there is one in the polynomial, you need to take it out right away. It's going to make life so much easier. And then one thing to note is that if your leading coefficient is negative, it's going to be really handy if you factor out a negative. Even if it's a -1, take a negative out if your leading coefficient is negative. After that, what happens is our factoring rules have all been about and been based on how many terms we happen to have. Do we have 2 terms? Do we have 3 terms? Do we have 4 terms? If you have 2 terms, you're going to mainly be looking for a difference of squares. Okay, so that's what you're going to do for a difference of squares. Remember, the sum of squares is prime, it's not going to factor. If you have 3 terms, you're going to be looking at a trinomial being equal to, when you factor it, a binomial times a binomial. So that's what's going to go into there. So we're going to use any technique that we had for factoring trinomials. You could use an AC method, you could use trial and error. So all of those rules we had for trinomials, we spent quite a bit of time on them. That would be what you do there. And then the final thing is, if you have 4 terms, we're going to use factoring by grouping. So grouping is what we're going to do if we have 4 terms. Once you do that, then we could bring it all back together into, is there anything else left that we might be able to factor? Anything else? So every once in a while, maybe you missed a common factor, or maybe there's still a difference of squares left you could do something with. So you pause at this point after using one of these 3 rules, and you say to yourself, is there anything I missed? Then finally check. Check your work. Always go back and multiply to check. So that's a general strategy. I'm going to look at some examples with that, but at this point, it's really all about practice.